Hi everyone, my name is Marcella and I'm the Executive Director of the Color Music Collective. So we're just going to jump right into introductions. So let's go around, have everyone briefly say your name, pronouns, company, position, and your clients. And let's start with Naledi.
Hi everyone, my name is Naledi, Nyahuma Seck, and I'm currently the Director of Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging at Universal Music Group. I've been here about a year. Prior to this, I've had experience with working at the Recording Academy or the Grammys, 5 years at LA Live, Staples Center. So I've come from sort of the music live event space, and then I've been able to transition into diversity. And in this role, our team works with our labels to develop diversity initiatives. Everything is company-wide, so we have a lot of labels from Motown, Interscope, Def Jam, Republic. We have about 20 plus labels in addition to other business units. And so we work to consult with them around diversity initiatives. We partner with our HR teams too. So that includes partnering with recruitment, learning on organizational development, internships, all of those areas. We try to touch on those and make sure that we're really sort of pushing diversity in every area of our business. And I'm really happy to be here.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And how about you, Blair?
Yes, hi, I'm Blair. I am the creative director at Jonas Group. I launched the marketing company with Kevin Jonas Sr. Last July. So my role, I oversee all things creative for his artist management clients. And then we also accept outside labels and artists and brands. So I see everything through from graphic design, the photo shoots, the music videos, to the social media strategy, the release strategy, all things that you would see from an artist on the internet.
Awesome. And Skylar?
Hey everyone, my name is Skylar. Pronouns are she, her, and hers. I work at WME in the Beverly Hills location as the ticketing coordinator for music and a tour marketing assistant. On the ticketing end of things, we more so work on projects and like festivals and, shows and stuff. And then tour marketing, obviously very specific tours. So ticketing was Coachella before it was canceled. That was my biggest project. And then on the tour marketing end, we're just trying to get new dates, mostly working with some of the Beach Boys and a few other clients.
Nice, awesome. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Seriously, an incredible panel. And if you don't mind, let's just jump into the discussion.
Absolutely. So we're just going to start with the first question, which is, how have you seen the music industry become more inclusive within the past few years, and what can we keep doing to improve?
I'll start with that one. I think with the exception of hip hop, and in terms of race, because hip hop has always been owned by Black people and it will always be owned by Black people. I think that now I'm seeing us create spaces in marginalized communities, create spaces for themselves in music rather than kind of looking for acceptance or promotion in spaces that aren't necessarily looking to accept or promote us. I think a great example of that is Issa Rae and what she's doing with her music supervision firm. I think it's awesome. It's called Radio, and she does, music supervision. She has a music library. She has a label, and she's really taken off like a rocket. I think even though it's not music, Lena Waithe's company is a great example of that. Lena Waithe with Hillman Grad Productions. I think both of those are great examples of us creating space for ourselves rather than trying to just go hard in these spaces that are traditionally white and very heteronormative, So yeah.
I'll jump in as well. I'm definitely piggybacking off of Skylar. So the demographics of the world are really changing, and I feel like the entry points into the industry have expanded. And so whether it's through digital or social media, and you mentioned Issa Rae as well, getting her start on YouTube, there's digital campaigns and real innovative ways for creatives to get in the industry and open doors that didn't exist before. I think that, people are changing, but we need systems to change. And if systems don't change, we won't make much progress. So, right now there's like a shakeup, I think, in the industry, a lot of leadership positions of various companies. There's a great exodus even in the agency world around representation. So there's definitely a change of guard happening, implementing new systems so that we can all sort of elevate and be successful. I think to improve the industry, we just have to continue to change mindsets and create opportunities for those who tend to be overlooked. So for us, whether it's with, working with artists as well, they're a lot more becoming more informed about the business, about taking more control of their careers, their brand. And a lot of those things in the past really weren't sort of under the artist's purview. They just wanted to sing or perform, but now they're really educating themselves. And then I think artists are continuing to cross over genres and still get those accolades and respect and speak more freely about their sexuality as well. So I definitely see sort of improvement, but I think there's always a long way to go too.
Definitely. And I've also, working in social media, loved watching some of the technology companies step up and help artists empower their fans to start getting more involved and acknowledging what's happening in the world. And one of those would be Community, the texting app. They've built in new features where artists can text their fans on their 18th birthday, encouraging them to get out and vote. And other platform or other initiatives like that can be run through Community. And you also see Spotify and Instagram putting up banners and all of that. I think one thing that we can continue to do is educate. I've heard a lot of negative conversations from people that haven't been educated about why the term urban has been moved out. And I think if those people were able to see the history behind that and also what the new terms would be, they'd be more accepting to learn and to change, but they haven't had education on why some of these changes are happening now. So I think that's something that we can continue to do.
Definitely. So for our second question, what resources are available at your company for employees to feel a sense of inclusion and belonging?
I can kick it off. So our team, we work with our labels, our business units to develop initiatives and programming and really developmental resources to create a workplace that not only attracts and supports diverse candidates, but really actively promotes inclusivity. So there was a survey that said 93% of employees agree that a sense of belonging drives their organizational performance. So we really try to focus on that. There's a lot of factors with employee engagement, everything from your direct boss or recognition and rewards, senior leadership, but we try to do as best we can to influence that. So we want to educate and empower our employees, provide opportunities for them to be seen and heard, and then take action. So a couple of things that we offer, and some of these are really across the board at various organizations at different levels. We're really decentralized groups, so we try to provide broad strategy and then custom solutions. So we do have employee resource groups or ERGs. Those are the employee-led volunteer groups to celebrate different cultures, build community across labels. We started our Women's Network first about 6 years ago, but now we have 9 chapters across the country in LA, New York, and Nashville of the Women's Network, and Utopia for our Asian American Pacific Islanders, our Black Label for our Black Employee Resource Group, Prism for LGBTQ+, and Cultura for our Latinx Hispanic employees. And those have gotten a lot of great feedback just to provide leadership opportunities and networking opportunities for employees. And then we've hosted town halls, everything from being led by the diversity team to being led by labels themselves or the ERGs themselves to really listen to each other. I think this is now a time where we weren't listening before, and some people might have been talking more in silos, and now we're really talking across the aisle in a lot of ways. And then we provided opportunities for people to be featured and express themselves publicly. So we just started our U at UMG sort of social media handle last year, but we started featuring employees, allowing them to work with us and collaborate on creating playlists and things like that, where they're really impacting sort of the streams of the artists and how can we get our employees more involved with things like that, even when it's not a part of their job. And then lastly, we started our task force for meaningful change in the end of May, and it's filled with our sort of top Black executives and some who are non-Black as well, but we're really trying to drive the commitment here and call people out and eliminate bias as much ways that we can. So we're trying to change systems internally and externally. And I think we have a long way to go, but we're really focusing on building that inclusive environment so that you are empowered to say how you feel and bring your best self to the table.
Definitely. For me, I am at an extremely small company. There's 4 of us and it launched a year ago. So, and this has also been my first time I've ever been empowered to be able to make a change since I'm only 2 years out of college. So this was a really great learning experience for me. I had a lot of conversations with my mom trying to figure out how can we capitalize on this moment and how can we make sure that as Jonas Group gets bigger, we can make sure that diversity and inclusion is part of our path. So for us right now, it's just been a lot of tough and even uncomfortable conversations trying to figure out and educate people that haven't, experienced different backgrounds. But I've been following closely the Republic Records Action Committee and seeing how other companies, larger companies, are bringing diversity and inclusion training to their companies so that as our company scales, we can incorporate those tactics and make sure that everyone that becomes a team member at Jonas Group is aware of different diverse backgrounds and is inclusive.
Yeah, so over at WME, we also have ERGs. We have a Pride ERG, Black ERG, Latinx ERG, and basically that's just an affinity group where, you can kind of get together and with people who have similar shared life experiences as you and similar aspects of their identity. And it's cool because belonging to the Black ERG, we throw events, we have a book club, we go to the other ERG events. So it really is nice to kind of have that little community, especially if you're new to the company. WME, just like a lot of other agencies, are so big. So belonging to that little smaller group is great. And it really is a resource group. It definitely has been for me, even throughout COVID and everything going on. So yeah.
What do diversity and inclusion mean to all of you?
There you go.
I was going to say, I'm about to go, then I saw Skylar. So yeah, I'll kick it off. So I mean, even for my team and then personally, but my team is called Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Squad. We go by DIBS. And so for us, it's really understanding and informing people. Like, diversity speaks to representation, traits, characteristics, how many are in the room with different backgrounds. Inclusion is more focused on behaviors and social norms. Speaks to, are you welcome and respected and who you are? And belonging is an emotional need. And it also speaks to being accepted and empowered to speak, to lead. So to me, it really means like diversity is being invited to the meeting and inclusion is asked to speak, or you might have a bullet on the agenda. And belonging is like, I created this agenda. I set the meeting, I set the tone, and I'm a little bit more empowered and impactful in what I have to say, and I'm being heard. And so we try to recognize, differences are really just value-added characteristics in people and teams and communities. And I really want to empower those who are often overlooked, unseen, and unheard. And I try to do that in my work, but also outside of work. So even when I'm not in the office, it's still me volunteering and talking to young people that look like me, or going back to Spelman where I went for undergrad, or even connecting at USC, because people make assumptions around you based on your college or where you are from and things like that. But there's so many other ways that we have diversity of thought. And I just always view it as an opportunity to encourage and inform others and lift each other up as I go.
Yeah, so I like a lot of what Naledi just said, especially the part about belonging. I think that's super important, especially in your workspace. That's where a lot of people spend most of their day. If they're not at home or on the weekends, people spend a lot of time in the office. And diversity inclusion has kind of been a term that I think has become, I don't want to say trendy, but it's been out there more recently in the past couple of years, maybe the past decade, if you want to say that. But I think that for me, I'm more definitely of an equity person. So versus equality. Equality is kind of like, okay, if it takes 20 steps to get to the end of the race, right? And the end of the race is a promotion. And I'm currently 5 steps. I come into said company with 5 steps into the race, and the person next to me is at 10 steps. Equality is kind of like, okay, everybody gets 5 steps. So now from 10, I'm at 15. The person next to me who was at 10 is now at, 15. And it's just like, okay, everybody kind of has the same thing. But equity in my mind is like making sure everybody comes up to the same level. So it's like, if I have 5 and then I'm given 10, I'm at 15. The person next to me who at 10, it's like, okay, they should get 5 because then they'll be at 15. So now everybody's at 15 rather than just saying, you get 5, you get 5. Making sure everybody really has the same level of access to me. That's what I think really, really like diving into diversity and inclusion means. And not to be too long-winded, but and just making sure everybody, it's beyond, feeling seen and acknowledged, really making sure everybody has the same level of opportunity. Yeah.
Definitely. I agree with all of that. And another thing I would add is that making sure that different backgrounds are celebrated and that the team is educating themselves and actively willing to learn, because it is one thing to have a diverse company, but if the other team members aren't willing to learn how to respect different backgrounds, then you're kind of stuck in the same issues, even if it is a diverse team. So I think making sure that everyone at the company is willing to learn and making sure that they are actively educating themselves on different backgrounds.
Definitely. So are there any young POC or LGBTQ plus artists or creators that you've noticed are making waves for diversity and inclusion in the industry right now?
I really like Kim Petras a lot. Kim Petras is dope. I have a friend that played Kim Petras all the time in the office. And one time I asked him, I was like, who is this? And they're like, you don't know? But I like Kim Petras a lot. Let's see. Yeah, definitely Kim Petras is the one that comes to mind at the moment. I might have another one, but yeah.
For me, it's ASEAN. We've had her on different panels with us and really speaking at our Pride engagements, but I've seen her outside of that too, and during Grammy week, and I'm just like, I love her personality, love her voice, and I love that she is truly herself anytime you see her. So I really, really enjoy her.
For me, we have an artist named Melanie Furman, and she is an up-and-coming artist. She's still small, but she is trying to make waves and really speak out about all of this. And she's been balancing, trying to figure out where the line is. If she has people saying, no, don't speak so much about this, but she's so passionate, and she has leaned towards the passionate side, even if it's not what her team or label would be saying. And I think that was just really empowering to see someone put issues in the world over their career right now.
Yeah, and I'm curious, going off of the importance of access and opportunity that you all spoke about, how can, from the creator side of things, from the artist side, what can young artists do to enhance that access and opportunity for young professionals or young people of color and LGBTQ upcoming in the industry?
I think something that creators and artists can do is definitely hold their team accountable. So if you're a YouTuber, if you're a musician and you have a team that's a manager, an assistant, an agent, like if you're an actor or an actress, I would definitely say like, okay, is there, who's working on the desk of that agent, who's handling all of my business past the people that you as the creator just see. So not just your manager, but the people that your manager communicates with. Like, what are the values of the company, the people working at the company, what is their kind of experience? Like, I know that obviously as an artist, you don't have all the hours in the world, but I think it is important to kind of look past just the business part of it and see the people. And I think that will probably give you a better sense as a creator of like what the industry looks like on the business side. And once you know kind of what it looks like on the business side, you can decide how you want to go about it to hold your people accountable.
I agree. Also, I think it's really along those same lines, but the more and more I speak to younger people who are sort of entering into the industry and then just new creatives, I think that it's figuring out who your teams are, who's behind the scenes, like Skylar said. And then I also think it's an ability to network amongst your peers. And if you're of a diverse background, you tend to know someone else who is, and I think it's worth it if we are investing in ourselves and investing in those people around us as well. And if we still go back to like the example of Issa Rae, it's someone that still hired the people around her that looked like her and continued to push that in different areas of whatever she's doing. And even though she continues to elevate, as she still expands her businesses, she's still hiring and bringing in people that look like her, whether it's the same age group or not, but people of color in general, that's what she's focusing on. So she's not even necessarily focusing on people her team are looking at. She's like, I'm bringing these people with me regardless. And we don't all have that level of, you know, power at the beginning, but I think it's important to recognize no matter what level you're at, really build that team around you and focus on other talented people around you too. And you will see that you can elevate together.
Definitely. And I think artists can empower the younger demographics through leveraging social media platforms. So whether it's creating a text group on community and asking your fans if you're passionate about this text, you know, a certain hashtag to it, and I will text you resources, or if they're posting on social media, creating a highlight so that fans can go back and see those resources. I've definitely gone to different artist pages and grabbed resources. And people look up to artists and influencers. So if it's on their social media and that's something that's in front of their faces every single day, it can be better than going on the internet and researching since it's right there for them.
Definitely. So as a quick wrap-up question before we head into Q&A, what is your favorite part about working in the music industry?
I don't know. I've always loved music. I started going to concerts when I was like 4. To be honest with you, my first concerts were Gladys Knight and the Pips every summer in Philly, and I was trying to figure out how do I get into this industry. And I really fell in love with the live event side for a long time, and you know, working at LA Live and managing events, managing a DJ. I like the variety. I like that it's a sort of ever evolving industry, and it's such a universal thing that it really does bring us all together, no matter what you look like or where you are in the world. Really is an equalizer for me as far as music and that universal language. So I just enjoy the fact that whatever work I'm doing is centered around something that makes everybody feel good.
I think I said this on another panel that I was on, but I really, really love the fact that music is so influential, and music, you know, has the ability, and entertainment in general, but music has the ability to move money, move people, move a whole bunch of stuff. And as a result, it shifts culture. It like shapes culture. It's a reflection of what's going on in the world, and vice versa. Like I love the fact that music is so influential because it can really be, you know, influential for the better, you know? And I think that if we push the right messages through the right avenues, it can really help change a lot of things and gaps that we see in society that maybe have nothing to do with music, but because people consume music entertainment generally, that could be a game changer. So it has already been.
Definitely. And for me, I love that I have learned about different cultures through it. I would never have known much about Latin music, but we had an artist who released a single with Pitbull, and I was able to spend a lot of time in Miami and seeing how the Latin music world works. And just different promotion tactics and really getting to dive into that culture. And I don't think I would have learned much about that if I hadn't been in that position or in the music industry. I think we're just exposed to a lot more cultures than other, say, desk jobs. So
Great, thank you so much. Mia, do you want to take us into our Q&A?
Yes, so we're about to start our Q&A with our first question. Let me just cue it up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Carla Hendershaw. I work with the collective. I wanted to ask you guys, how did you find your voice in the workplace to speak up for yourself and for those around you if you saw situations maybe where people were being left out? And like, did it take you a while? Did you feel like you had to work your way up the ladder before you felt comfortable speaking up?
for me, I was always told growing up that I wasn't Black enough or that I just wasn't Black in general. So it was always hard for me to find a voice. And I think that with everything that happened with George Floyd and Blackout Tuesday, that was the moment when I was like, I need to speak up. I'm in a really small company of people from North Carolina that have not, experienced that much diversity. It's my job and duty to actually speak and make sure that our company is stepping up and speaking about this. So I think that event really triggered it in me that this is now my time. I have a voice finally, and I need to use it.
Hey, Carla, thanks for your question. I think that no matter what level that you're at, whether you're just coming in, you're in the mailroom, whether you're an assistant, whether you're an agent, I think anytime someone who identifies as both a woman and somebody who's Black, it's like the demise of you as in your company. Unfortunately, I hate to put it that way, but as long as you keep using your voice, I think that is definitely going to be beneficial and helpful to you. But also it's kind of because, at least for me, I didn't really have another choice. The moment I stopped speaking up for myself or became meek or was no longer an advocate for myself and my peers, that's it, so you have to, I think I just realized that if I'm going to do well or even have a chance at doing well, it's not an option for me to not speak up. I'm not saying it's easy. I definitely am not saying it's easy. It's very challenging at times, but I don't have another choice. I have to do it, so.
I would agree. Hi, Carla. I think I've always just been really vocal, and I've tried to also be a resource to most people in the office environment, no matter what stage I was at. So that I became a dependable person to others, even if I wasn't sure what I could, sort of have a mutually beneficial relationship with them for. I didn't know what I could use them for or anything like that. I was just trying to be as helpful as possible, do my job, and think about how others' jobs could be done a little bit easier. And then when I wanted to do things, I was vocal and tried to find others who could join me with it. And so previously I worked somewhere where we didn't have employee resource groups, and I was vocal to our HR teams there about needing support at my age and at my level, and thinking that there wasn't any development for people like me. And the more I spoke up, the more I was able to be introduced to other executives. And what I found is, at that time, they might not have been ready for employee resource groups, but I was able to find individual advocates and sponsors for me, which meant they would speak about me when I'm not in a room. And that's the kind of support you need, and you don't realize it sometimes, where a mentor is more your personal development, and they might be a little bit communicating with you a lot more frequently, but that sponsor or advocate may not even see you that often. But once you've made that impression, or they're invested in your success, they tend to speak and help you and advocate for you when you're not in that room. And so I started to really focus on who are those people that can be influential in the room when I'm not there. And that's also been a good sort of strategy for me to have an opportunity to be vocal and then be heard.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll have our next question.
Talia, are you there? Talia?
I'm trying to select unmute. Is it working?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
So essentially what I'm wondering is I've heard a lot of discourse about the industry sort of commodifying individuals' identities, especially when they hold a queer identity or a person of color. And I'm wondering from your perspectives what the line is between somebody having authority over their identity and it being a part of their platform and what they promote through their music and sort of being representational versus it merging into a form of exploitation or commodification.
Hey, Talia. I think it becomes exploitation and commodification, and I referenced this a little bit earlier, is when you have to examine kind of who the people are like running the machine. If somebody is kind of just out there as, you know, being them their authentic selves. However, if the person that's pocketing a lot of the money, if the person that's running the whole thing behind them is not with the shared identity, if it's not a community behind them that's also representative of the artist, I think that's when you get into a pretty tricky and maybe not so good area, you know? I think that anytime someone's talking about certain topics, whether it's race, sexuality, it's like you have to have people that belong to whatever identity you're talking about, whatever marginalized group, you have to have those people in the room. Same thing with a team of artists. You have to, you know, create a team around you that kind of is reflective of yourself as well. So.
I agree. I definitely think representation matters as far as who's actually speaking on your behalf, who's acting on your behalf. On one hand, we talked about, do they look like you, but also, even if they don't, do they understand what you're contributing to the culture and to your own brand, and then just be unwavering in keeping that authenticity. I do think it's a fine line for a lot of people. And if you're, you know, cognizant of it from the beginning, I think you'll be a little bit more proactive in keeping that authenticity. And sometimes you're not in that room and they might want you because you're someone that's not in that room. But if you do get an opportunity, sometimes you have to seize it and take full advantage of why that door might have opened and just bust through that door. So I definitely think there's a fine line, but as much as possible, just try to maintain that authenticity for yourself, but also those immediately around you.
And I agree with all of that.
Great.
All right, we'll move on to our next question.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I was just wondering, what do you think is the first action or change that needs to be done in order to get us closer to inclusion?
I think your last few words broke up there. What was the end of your sentence, Laura?
Oh, sorry. I was asking, what's the priority or the first action or change that you think needs done to get us closer to inclusion overall?
So I definitely grapple with that. What's the first thing? I think it's always going to be multiple things at once, sort of this multi-pronged approach. On one hand, people have to do the work internally, and then there's like the systemic work. So for personal, I think it's the education. It's allowing people to have certain platforms to be heard, but also it's educating the masses. A lot of what the miscommunication, misunderstanding is for a lot of people we're realizing is like their level of truth that you know, that you heard, or that you were taught is not the same across the board. And so we've been trying to have these conversations for one step, as far as like educating, informing, allowing people to get some of that data that they just weren't privy to because it wasn't a part of their day-to-day life. And then systemically, it's changing systems and putting pipeline programs in place that maybe didn't exist, or creating opportunities that didn't exist. So sometimes it looks like an actual position, or other times it looks like reevaluating how you're looking at certain employees and or artists for opportunities, and really figuring out that sometimes it's not who you know in your closest proximity that's the best talent or the best person. And now that some people are educated about it, we can see avenues for change with that. So it's a lot. I think it's funding. A lot of times we just don't have funding behind the initiatives that we wanted to push before this. And now we have a lot more eyes on us as far as diversity goes. So I'm hoping that some of those doors will open because the funding is there. We tend to not get as much support and resources because it wasn't at the forefront of most of the company, but now it is. So even when it's outside of corporate, it's just the world at large, I would say it really boils down to like education, information, access to opportunities for sure, and the willingness to change those systems.
For me, I agree with all of that. And I think it just starts with that really hard conversation and making sure that it's not just the social media person posting Blackout Tuesday on an Instagram account, making sure that everyone at the company actually understands and is educated on the history and what is happening currently. And then making sure that any programs that are put in place because of different things like Blackout Tuesday actually continue and don't just stop when it isn't trending in the news anymore.
I think Naledi and Blair, they touched on all the good things and things that I definitely would echo. Just dissolving the barriers to entry. You know, pay is one thing, and then, you know, once you get the people, the diverse people into the room and to reach, you know, whatever groups of people you're seeking to reach, what are you doing to keep those people also there? Because it's one thing to get them there, but if they can't sustain themselves, or the company's not giving them the resources to sustain themselves there, it's okay. It's just a very repetitive cycle, you know? One thing I also would say is mentorship, like access to mentorship for everybody. If you're in a company, only certain people receive mentors, or only certain people are being groomed to be promoted or the next person, that does not enrich your company. In fact, it does like the exact opposite, you know? So just making sure that everybody has access to the same things within the company once they get there.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you, Laura. I think we have time for one more Q&A question.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you all. My question today is, how do you think that young professionals entering the workplace can work to advance equity in both their workplaces and in the music industry?
I would say it's important, in no matter who you are, whether, you know, you're just enjoying music as a fan, or you actually work within the music industry, or whatever relationship you have with entertainment. So that's the topic of discussion today, entertainment. You need to hold your people accountable. I think it's really important to check in with people who may be struggling, or people who are marginalized, and people that you know, like just check in with them. I think people would be surprised how far that goes. Ask, how can I help you? What do you need? Versus, hey, how are you? It's okay to ask, hey, how are you, if you have that relationship with the person, but I also like the question, you know, what's up? How can I help you? Or if you need help, feel free to reach out to me, you know? And if you are in a group with privilege, definitely, again, hold your peers accountable. I think that's a big part of it. Thanks for the question, Vivian.
I 100% agree as far as, you know, holding your people accountable. I think we have an opportunity with younger generations to show a little bit more compassion and empathy, and sometimes that may have not been the case previously. I think there's always some sort of struggle, you know, and each generation still has a struggle, and we're still dealing with things that have been here for centuries. But I think it's building the community that you want to see. So holding them accountable, but also extending yourself to people. I love when people can say, how can I help, or what do I have to, this is what I have to offer. Like, tell me about what you have to contribute, and don't just ask for things. I think that's a big one, where you start to think about people. When I know their skill set, I'm like, oh, I know she knows how to do this, or he knows how to do this. When that opportunity comes, I go back and I reach back out to them, and I'm like, a lot of people don't know how to sell themselves in a way that makes them useful to others. They say and see where they want to be, but they don't really know how to get there. And then they don't know how to take that skill set and really translate it to that person to say how I can help you, or how I can fit, or make your life easier, make your job better, make your company greater. So I definitely think it's a part of sort of a self-evaluation of, what do I have to offer the world? And if that's a world of equity and a world of belonging and diversity, that's what you want to see, then you need to be living that as well, and educating yourself on that as well. So definitely having an open mind and being open to opportunities, but recognizing when there is an injustice, and not being afraid to speak up about that if others aren't speaking up around you.
Definitely. And piggybacking off of both of those ideas, when there is an opportunity for a promotion or a leadership position, going for it, even if you don't feel like you are qualified, because people from a privileged background will apply for those, even if they know they're not qualified. And we can still have those same opportunities, so still going for it. And then, trying to think of the last point. Just leave that one.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vivian.
Well, awesome. That's going to wrap up our panel for today. I just wanted to say thank you to all our wonderful panelists for their time and their wisdom. We all really appreciate it. If you could give us a follow on Instagram, it's just at Color Music Collective, and you can find out the details about our next panel. We announce it every Wednesday, but that's all. So I hope you guys have the great rest of your evening.
Thank you so much, everyone.